Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are starting the second in our series of overviews about the Bush School programs. Today's emphasis will be the Master of Public Service and Administration. I'll cover a few other programs along with it, but most of what I'm covering is about the on-campus program for the Master of Public Service. So anytime you've got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But at the end of this webinar, I will also stop the recording and we can take questions at that time too, if that's easier. So as a review, we've got an agenda that we're going to cover today. First of all, I should have mentioned, I'm your presenter. My name is Catherine. I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions here at the Bush School and work with recruitment. And really enjoy getting to meet you guys. So thank you for joining us today. So we'll start with what our agenda is going to cover. So we've got a public service degree with several elements that might even be political, PhD collaboration, so that someone who starts here might want to continue on to some research and go on to a PhD program. We've also got an undergrad 5-year program. We've got an online executive program, but I'm going to focus on the academics and what those look like with our tracks and concentrations, what some of the sample capstone projects look like, how those are run, the curriculum overview of what it looks like for a semester, some of the sample classes we have. We'll also go into a little bit about our admissions deadlines and our statistics for the Master of Public Service, how we work funding, what we cost for most students, how we support our students, not only through leadership and development programs, but some of the career service opportunities, how they can get involved on campus, and then we'll end with the contact information on how to get a hold of us for follow-up. So remember, drop in those Q&As anytime you want to do that. So let's start with what is the Bush School of Government and Public Service. So we are an undergrad and graduate school at Texas A&M University. We're by far one of the smallest programs here at Texas A&M. We opened our doors in 1997 as part of the Bush campus, right, with the library and museum. There's a conference center, and then there's the Allen Building. So we really love our location. We're just set off to the side of the big main part of campus. So a lot of students will catch the bus if they need to be on campus. It's about, I don't know, 7 to 10 minute little drive when they have the stops on their way. We've got roughly 3,300 master's alumni from our program since our inception. And then we've got several master's degrees. So there's 6 of them here in College Station, 2 in DC, and 1 online. The 2 that we're going to talk about today with the Master of Public Service is here in College Station. And I'll reference a little bit on the executive, excuse me, which is our online program. And then we also have 5 graduate certificates, which are either online or on campus that I'll also mention. So we're preparing students for careers in nonprofits, federal, state, local government, some of it private industry, agencies that deal with education, health, security, development, all kinds of areas. No 2 students who come in have to be focused on the same area. So it adds a lot of diversity for it. So who are we looking for as a program? Well, first of all, motivated, smart, hardworking leaders, people who are going to dig in and get work done. We especially like those that have a calling to service, especially in that public sector. Our students do want to give back, make the world a better place. Sometimes that is at the local level. Sometimes it might even be the federal or international level. So it's up to you what you want to pursue, but we're here to support you. And we're looking for those that are mature and ready to handle the rigors of a graduate program. So at the Bush School, you're going to work, you're going to develop, you're going to prepare, and you're going to build. So it's really making sure that you are a team player, because you're going to be working by yourself and as a team on a lot of projects, especially in the public service curriculum. You're going to develop your knowledge, skills, and abilities to fill in some gaps, expand on the ones that you already have to be a better representation when you're going out for those jobs. Prepare for your professional life wherever it leads. We all know that the pathway you're going right now may not be where you are 10 years from now. So having those skill sets and building it with lifelong personal and professional connections is our goal. Now, for the Master Public Service Administration program, as a reminder, this is a 2-year program. It is a 48 credit hour program, which means our students typically have to do 12 hours, which is 4 courses. each semester. We start only in the fall. We are NASPA accredited, which is a network association of schools of public affairs and administration. So we've gone through and gotten vetted by that program. They have checked our education background, they've checked our classes, our career services, our faculty credentials, and we are now one of the top programs in the nation, according to that, and the rankings will come next. The requirements for this program is to complete a 10-week internship, unless you already bring in work experience, in which case it can be waived. So you're going to work with both our career services office and with some of the faculty connections to help land one of those that's of interest to you. And you're also going to be required to complete a client capstone project for 1 year working with your classmates. And I'll discuss that one in a few more slides. You get to build a degree that is relevant to your interests. That is based off the track that you're choosing and the concentrations that you're going to put together. You're also going to receive faculty and career advising as you go through this program and have multiple opportunities to network, both with our faculty, with their guest speakers, with the employers brought in, with your fellow classmates, all kinds of opportunities. There is an ongoing, I believe today, conference that's being held for 1 day. So those kind of opportunities will pop up and you can take advantage of those as you go. Now, some optional elements is you can earn a Bush School graduate certificate to highlight your study while you're in this program. You get a max of 12 credit hours that can count from a certificate towards the MPSA. So I'll show that on the next slide, but these certificates exist and sometimes people will start them maybe a spring semester because they're coming in off cycle, or they want to test the waters and see what these certificates are like. What are the classes like? And you can start a certificate and then bring in up to 4 of those classes into the master's degree if you want to. We've also had students that might have started the Master of Public Service in one area and then change their heading while they were here and go, you know what, I'm already taking these classes. Why don't I just go ahead and pay that application fee for the certificate and I'll graduate with 2 different credentials, both the Master of Public Service and a certificate. So that is an option for those that want to do it. Additionally, because we have an executive Master of Public Service degree that exists here, and it is online courses, you can also take online electives. There is a limitation. You can only do a max of 7 of your classes that way, and it is going to be at a cost of $1,500 more per class. That's just the way that those fees come out than you would if you were paying for a class to sit in class here in person. All core courses are required to do it in person, so you can't do those online. It's just that through electives. Now, those certificates that I talked about, they're available online and on campus. They accept applications every semester. That's fall, spring, and summer entry. So there is a certificate in nonprofit management and one in public management and one in homeland security that align right with some of the same concentration or track areas we have in the public service and administration program. So sometimes people do want to start these ahead of time, see how they like the classes, and then bring those 4 courses into the degree. But even if you did 2 courses, you could just count 2 towards the Master of Public Service. And maybe that allows you to do 3 classes in a semester instead of 4, because you've already gotten ahead of the game there. So certificates can complement the MPSA. You can complete them with a little bit of flexibility, be either online or on campus. You can do focus areas. For instance, in the nonprofit, you can do a fundraising certificate, emphasis area in that certificate. And then for Texas A&M seniors, you guys can enroll a little bit early coming into this program. So if you're interested in any of these certificates, you can find that information on the website. It is Bush School Online. I just want to mention that before I get back into the public service emphasis. So our rankings and accreditation, we have, as I said, been NASPA accredited, gone through all their vetting, and we've also been ranked by U.S. News and World Report in 2024 as one of the best public affairs programs in the nation. So that puts us in the top 10 nationally. And then the subgroups, which is hard to break up, we were in Homeland Security at like number 10 a couple of years ago, and then it dropped off for unknown reason. but we're also number 21 in nonprofit and number 21 in public management and leadership. So the Public Service Administration has what are called tracks, which are more like majors, and concentrations, which is more like a subsidiary minor if you wanted that. So the track, you have to choose at least one. You can do two. So a lot of students who are coming in are looking at public policy analysis, and then maybe after that is between the public management and nonprofit management. So you get to pick which one is of interest to you. You're going to be required to take some courses to fulfill that track. And then we also offer what are called concentrations, but they are optional. You do not have to pursue a concentration, but they exist if you want one. So here are the ones that we have. I would say that some of the more popular ones are there towards the bottom. The Homeland Security and National Defense is very popular right now. State and local government is always popular for students, especially even our international students who often go back and work with their home countries. Even within that nonprofit world, sometimes they will use those. There's international NGOs, all kinds of policy areas, analytical methods for those that like the quant aspects. But again, sometimes people end up composing their own individually designed area of focus. That can be in communications, that could be an ag policy, that can be transportation issue, housing issues. And in that case, you're often working with other departments here at Texas A&M. Now, the curriculum, there are 7 core courses, 3 track courses, and then 6 electives that you're using in some way, sometimes to fulfill that concentration. So for instance, as semester 1, we will come in the fall. They have to do these 4 classes. So you've got foundations of public service, economic analysis, quant methods, foundations of nonprofits. So you're getting a little taste of all of our areas. And then by the second semester in the spring, you're going to do public policy formation. You're going to do one of the quant methods that's tied to your track. So sometimes they have a little bit different number and a different emphasis. You're going to be taking one of your track requirements, and now an elective can be built in. In the summer, most of our students are going off and completing a professional internship. If you are away for that, then you get the summer off. Or sometimes people will end up doing maybe an individual class through another department over the summer and just kind of get ahead again. Maybe do a course or two in the summer. Doesn't happen very often. By the time you guys roll back in for semester 3 in that fall, you now start your capstone project, a track requirement, 2 electives, and then you end with your capstone, which just continues, and 3 electives. So you are building this to what interests to you. When you've got these track courses, I wanted to include some of the samples of what these look like. So there are any number of 15 to 20 classes that are listed. They're not always offered each semester, so you do have to work with your department to see when things are being offered. But these are some example courses under each of those 3 tracks. So as an example, under public policy analysis, you can get environmental policy, immigration and education policy, urban policy and management, energy policy and security. Public management is going to be dealing more with people and how to implement and manage those policies that have been studied and put into place and developed. So now you're doing budgeting and public management, professional local government management, decision making, ethics and public policy, fundamentals of homeland security. And if you're looking at nonprofits, it's how to run and work with nonprofits. So physical management, philanthropy, fundraising, legal environment, all kinds of really unique and different classes that our robust faculty are putting together. And as I mentioned, those optional concentrations, you're going to have any number of courses underneath those headings that you can then choose from. And you will have 6 of those. So you just pay attention to what's out there and sign up for those as you go along. Now, the capstone project is a 9-month consulting project. Now, this is in your last year. You get a say-so in what's being offered. So you're taking a presentation by faculty who are going to talk about who their client is and what the gist of that consulting work you're going to do for them. And they're going to present that to you. You then will get to rank order your top interest. Some of those will be based off of it's in your wheelhouse. You're already studying nonprofits. Here's a nonprofit focus area, that's what you want to do. Others might choose it because there might be a faculty member they've been wanting to take a class from, but they're not in their area. So they now want to do a capstone under that professor. Others will find out if there's travel involved or if it's just an interesting side project for them. They're just going to add it to their repertoire and say, you know what, I don't know this area very well, but I think this sounds interesting, and they'll rank order it for that. So this is a culmination of everything that you've been learning through your quant courses, how you can take research, put that together, present it back out to your client in both a paper and a spoken format. And you're going to do this project with between 4 to usually about 10 classmates. Sometimes they might get a little bit bigger depending on the popularity. But this requires teamwork, it requires initiative, figuring out who's going to be where and when, taking those leadership skills and putting them into play. You do have faculty guidance to produce this work, but you guys have liaisons who work directly with the client. So this is a project led by the students that the faculty are just there to oversee. The clients are going to mirror some of the same sectors as our employment list. So this is going to be clients coming in from the nonprofits, from the federal government, maybe local community government, all kinds of areas that will have some diversity of, I want to study on this, or I might want to try something new. Here's an example of some of the capstone clients that we are working with right now. So this is what's ongoing for this fall. The students have started with, for instance, this Greater Houston Opportunity Youth Collaborative is a nonprofit with Dr. Kenny Taylor. Enhancing the Capacity of Local Organizations is another nonprofit with Dr. Will Brown. You've got a Homeland Security topic. You've got an education topic with Dual Credit Landscape, working for the TEA. You've got an AI data centers and what that means, and the setting those into communities, and where that robust energy supply and water supply to support these data centers and who accepts them. So all kinds of really interesting topics. Again, you get to rank order your areas. As far as that Texas A&M connection, I want to reiterate, when you're tailoring your degree to your interests, sometimes students are taking other classes outside of the Bush Goal. So if you are interested in something that is more of a transportation issue or a housing issues, you might be taking classes out of urban planning or sociology or within the management office. Rangeland Wildlife and Fisheries sometimes goes with our conservation and environmental policy. So these are just a few classes that when you look at our curriculum, if it doesn't say PSAA and it says ECON, that's economics. They're just built in for these that other students have already found out that they work well for that emphasis area. And so they get permission from their faculty advisor to take some of these outside classes. Two are pretty standard that you can get in without any issue. After that, you just need to get some faculty and advising from your department to approve it. So if you like what you're seeing, you're going, okay, these are the kinds of classes I want to take, and you're now interested in applying to the program, we'll give more details in an admissions webinar later, but the essential part of this is that we work through a program called GradCast. Now, this application is available on the website. You just click on it, you get started with that application. There's only two exceptions. That's if an A&M student is already in a master's and wants to continue on for another one. They can do an internal app, and for A&M 5-year students who are in undergrad programs, which I'll talk about shortly, they also do an internal app. Everyone else goes through GradCast. Everyone else has to submit an application fee. I am asked all the time for fee waivers. I don't have them. I have to pay Texas A&M for them. So the only ones that I pay for application fee waivers are for a few organizations that we partner with, like Peace Corps or AmeriCorps. There's a few others, but largely, unfortunately, if you can't afford a $114 or an $89 application fee, I know that there's no way you can afford this program because we don't have full rides. So we just want to make sure that people who are applying are the ones that are invested and know that this is a program that will work for them. You only have to submit unofficial transcripts at the time that you apply. We will ask for official ones if you decide to accept our offer, and you'll submit them at a later time. We only need 2 letters of recommendation. Typically, if you are a more recent graduate for undergrad, we would probably want at least one, maybe both of them to be academic. But the longer you've been out, the more ability is to pull from your workforce or pull from someone who knows you well within serving in the community. And you would just make sure that those have substance that would give value to faculty, like your work ethic, your giving back to your community, anything that shows that you are ready to tackle and have that maturity to do well in this program. We also want to see a resume. This is a professional resume. It can be 1 or 2 pages. It does not need to be longer than that. We are not looking for a CV with a lot of research on it because that's not what our program is prepared for. It's usually typically more for PhDs. So on that resume, keep it short, sweet, to the point, but hit some of those highlights of what we want to see on it. There is an even sample resume on our website under that section. If you wanted to look at one, most of you already have one that does well. Writing a personal statement, put some time into this. The statement needs to tell who you are, where you're coming from, what you want to focus on. Faculty are looking for that commitment and for that focus that they know they can help you excel into this area. People who come in and write in their personal statement about doing a lot of research with an area that we don't do, not a great fit. So we then wonder what's the benefit of bringing someone into our program who's using resources and some of the funding when there's probably a better program for them somewhere else. So just make sure you use that personal statement to write well and write with some backup of who you are and how that ties into what we are doing. If you are an international applicant and you're not waived for certain reasons with this, proof of English proficiency. So some of the students from Nigeria, you guys are taught in English, those are waived. Otherwise, you need to meet the proof of English, and it's on our website of how you can do that, testing or through several other ways. The GRE is optional. This used to be mandatory for many degrees. Now, almost all of us, are making this just as an encouragement if you think it can strengthen your application, or maybe if your GPA is below a 3.2 and you think you can study and do well for this test, then go ahead and do that. We want this to be a benefit, not a hindrance. We know the test is expensive at $200, so just make sure that if you're wanting to submit it, get it taken before the deadline so that it can be reviewed. Any more information as you're applying, you'll be working with my colleague Ashley, and Ashley is the one who will be looking over your materials. If she's got questions or needs you to clarify something, she's going to be emailing you from Bushville Applications. So you'll watch for those emails, and that'll give you your true status of your file and how it looks. Now, the deadline's a little bit different this year. We're doing 3 different rounds. At least for domestic students, it's 3 rounds. It's 2 rounds for international students. We are still pushing what we call an early admissions decision and priority funding. That's a December 15th deadline. That's the deadline you want to hit if at all possible, because we're going to start reviewing those files. We're going to start inviting students to interview, which we start those in February, maybe late January, early February. And then you get a chance to meet those faculty via Zoom or via in person if you're a domestic student. And we will start releasing admissions decisions as we get through these interviews. Or just through, hey, your file looks fantastic. We know the interview's not going to mess that up. We may go ahead and admit you early. You're not going to get any funding decision until after interviews are all done, which is going to be by mid-March. But at least you would know that you're in the program and start getting your paperwork done. Now, apply by January 15th. This is the last final round for international students. We do not keep the application open past January 15th. The paperwork for the I-20s and the visas is just a madhouse. If you get any later than around that late January, you will not make progress. So it is the second round for domestic apps. And at this point, we're just still rolling those admissions decisions as we can, but the funding's not be released till March. Round 3, we do keep that application extended a little bit longer for domestic apps. People always find us late. They've got until March 15th. The issue with that late of a date, it's just on a space and funding availability. So sometimes really strong students are only getting a minimal scholarship at that point because that's all I have left. Everything else has already been granted to the earlier applicants. As a reminder, there are interviews required for this program. So we do assign you 2 interviews. Most of you internationally will do those via Zoom. Those that can come to our interview conference weekend on campus at Texas A&M, it's held February 20th and 21st. It's a Friday, Saturday. And we'll hold a number of different activities for students to do a Q&A and other aspects. So unfortunately, I don't have that available for those that are international. We may broadcast part of that or send out some recordings of that at a later time, but we don't typically have the same kind of opportunity for our international students. The offer response from our offers is April 15th. So you just have until that time to give us a decision. All this information is on the website under the Master of Public Service. So you can find all the very nitty-gritty details on that part. If you're curious what our class looks like for the MPSA, our enrollment this year was 87. Now, at one point, we had well over 100, but we had also about 25 international students. We ended up enrolling a lot less than that. So just with the state of affairs with the visas and I-20s with President Trump this year, we could not get a lot of students in. And then funding is always an issue of people thinking they can find some funding and they can't. So enrollment was 87. That's pretty strong for this program. We're trying to keep near 90. Average GPA was at a 3.48. Average age was 24 this year. Now, last year, that average age was a little bit higher at 27. That's usually because of those international students add some of that depth, professionalism coming into the programs. Women is usually between 50 to 60%, so we're right in that mark. Students of color is at 40% this year. It's very strong. International, again, lost many of them. We were only at 9% when enrollment hit this fall. Last year, we were at 20%. Non-residents, we have a few more Texas residents this year. We're right at 28% non-residents. Average work experience, very young. Notice that 70% of our students are coming to us within 0 to 2 years. 5+ years is 14%. Now, this was a much different last year because, again, those international students bring in some of that work experience and slip those numbers up a little bit. But this year's the reality of what it was for this year. Now, the class size of what you're sitting in a classroom, because remember, the class is at 87 enrolled, but when you're sitting in a classroom, most of our classes max at 20. So these are very small interactive courses. Most of our classes, the average is around that 16, because you might even have a class with 8 to 10 students in it. So you're getting a one-on-one opportunity with our professors, or at least, 1 to 10, 1 to 20, that are accomplished academics in their field, as well as those that are coming in after career in city management. They're coming in from a background in military personnel, nonprofit administration, maybe running boys and girls clubs, homeland security leaders. So you get a good mix of both that practitioner, practical education, as well as those professors that are doing cutting edge research in their field. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are some opportunities with Texas A&M students that can do what we're calling 5-year or 3+2 joint programs. So these are students, just briefly, that are in these 5 different programs here at Texas A&M. Political science is probably our biggest, maybe sociology right after that. And those students can come to us as a junior, and they are working with their undergraduate advisors to make sure they're taking the right kinds of classes, setting some of them aside. As long as they have a 3.25 GPA or better by the time they enroll, then they can consider this program. So they're applying as a junior. They're submitting an internal application with a course planner signed by their department advisor, and they have to hit those MPSA requirements They have to get their application in no later than round two, which is the January 15th, in order to be considered for this. The benefits is they get to pay undergrad costs within their first year of the Bush School. You get 14 to 18 credit hours of our classes, also counting for undergrad. So you can take fewer classes, which saves money. You save money by having an internal app because there's no fee for it, and you earn both your bachelor's and master's in 5 years. And for some students who are going fast track, it's within 4 years they get both their master's and bachelor's. So typically we're enrolling about a dozen 3+2 students each fall, but it is very niche. It is only for Texas A&M undergrads. Now, those that start the Master of Public Service and say, look, I am a former teacher and I am, really interested in education issues. Policies that are being approved right now don't make sense with the legislature. I want to do some more work in this area. They have an opportunity to pursue from the MPSA and get early admission into the PhD program through Educational Administration and Human Resources Development. This is primarily for those that want to do research, but it's for 111 credit hours over 5 years. I'm not going to go into the details for it, but these students can start applying for this program once they just get into our Master of Public Service. So there's nothing extra someone has to do early. It's just knowing that it exists so that if you do come into the Master of Public Service and you go, wait a minute, I think I heard about this program, you can look into it because you can start applying for that and getting into it for the summer after you complete the MPSA. The other one to this is the health policy. So if someone's very interested in that field, same idea, they get 111 credit hours over the 5 years, but you would start the Master of Public Service and then you would apply either in the spring or the fall once you're here. So it is something that's kind of after the fact, so I don't do a whole lot of detail on it, but it does exist. I want you to be aware of it. Now, as far as funding goes, here's the big part, right? We give what are called scholarships in year one because we don't really want our students working. We want to be able to reward students who do well in year one with an assistantship opportunity in year two. So some schools do give grad assistantships or teaching assistantships. We do not until year two. So you have to be able to fund your education in year one with some of our scholarships, but you have to have some funding too. And there's no way around that. I don't have magic funding that I can just go, oh, here it is. I was holding this back from you, but here it is. And it existed all the time. It doesn't. So I'm going to talk about scholarships in year one and just realize I know there's a gap between what we cost and what we can cover. So the reality is students do have to either take out loans or find some supplemental funding, work through part of their education in order to afford that. And that's the reality. But in year two, they can have an opportunity. So year one, let's talk about that. 100% of our full-time enrollees in the Master of Public Service receive some level of scholarship. Now, our scholarships range from $1,000 up to $15,000. Sometimes we might even give a $20,000, but it depends on how funding goes. It depends on how strong applicants look, what our situation looks like for that year. So we are giving scholarships to every single person. Obviously, we're giving fewer of the top level awards and a lot more of those bottom level awards. If you receive a scholarship from us and you are not from Texas, you will also receive a non-resident tuition waiver. Now that waiver is worth about $12,700 in a typical year. So that's 24 credit hours. So that's going to be 12 courses is how you would get that amount of money. You take fewer classes, you get less money for that waiver. But fall of 2025, so this class that just came in, 48% of our students had between, well, most of them were the $3,000. Very rarely does someone get 1,000. It might be one or two students, and there's usually circumstances tied to that. but 3,000 is usually what most students get. That's 48% of our students in that level. Five to $7,000 given them for the year was another 37%. So that we're getting a little bit better with that. Then there's those that get above 10,000. That was only 15% of that class. So you can see from the year before, I just left that up too. Last year, 28% of our students got the 10,000 or more. And I want to say that part of that is because those were some of our international students who at the last minute had to turn down scholarships because they couldn't afford to make it here or their visas weren't approved. So just keep in mind there is money that exists. Those are given out based on merit. So they're looking at grades, they're looking at the institution you went to, they're looking at some of the work experience you might pull in with those good grades. It's hard to get a top level scholarship if you're coming in with a 3.1 or a 3.2. There's a few exceptions that someone can swing that, just based off the way the faculty interact with them. But by and large, most students are going to get a 3,000 or a 5,000. Those are our averages. Now, in the summer, if you are required to do that internship, right, unless it's waived, if you get an unpaid position, you can qualify for internship stipend. So that's additional money that can be given to you, but you must attend the career workshops in order to qualify for those. So you'll hear about that. You'll be able to know which ones to attend to get credits, so that if you do get an unpaid one, then you can help get some funding from career services. Now, in year two, you will either renew the same amount of scholarship. So if you came in on a $5,000 scholarship, you'll be renewed for that same $5,000 in your second year. We don't want to surprise someone and say, nope, this money's going away. But you have to keep your GPA up. So keep that above a 3.25. You're also still going to get that non-resident tuition waiver. So you can apply for a graduate assistantship in your second year. So it's one or the other. If you apply for a graduate assistantship and you don't get it, you're automatically just going to get your scholarship renewed. But if you do get a graduate assistantship, they've chosen you to do that. You release that 5,000 in year one, that goes away. But instead, you're now working for faculty or staff for 20 hours per week. You're approximately earning 20,000 for that work. You're also getting 9 hours of tuition paid each semester, plus you're getting some insurance reimbursement. It's limited to about a dozen assignments per department, plus there's a few of us staff who have them. And you will use first year GPA and fit with the position. Those things matter in who they're picking. I know, for instance, on the GA that I have that works with recruiting and admissions, I am looking at GPA because I want to reward someone who's done well so that they can move up in their scholarship. That is my intention for this. So I know other faculty, it's required for them. They have to have those that have good GPAs apply, or they cannot consider them. Now, as far as financial aid and costs from A&M, we do have what is called a graduate merit fellowship. That is a domestic student only. It's about our only full ride. We've got it and an Avilash Johnson Award that are also pretty generous, but you have to hit certain first generation, other aspects, but it's for domestic students. So for our international students, you're just left with the Bush School scholarships and any outside funding you can bring in. A Texas resident can also apply what is called a Texas Aggie Graduate Grant. It's a need-based grant for an additional $5,000 a year, but you have to apply for it, get your signature by your department, and get it in on time to be considered. A lot of our students, domestic again, will fill out FAFSA. So there are loans available. They're also looking for campus jobs, student worker positions. International students, if your visa allows it, you can also look for those jobs and maybe work for some faculty for some extra income. So pay attention to those opportunities. They'll be out there, but a reiteration, I don't mean to keep harping on this, but international students do have to have some funding of their own to afford it here. Our estimated tuition and required fees, if you'll notice, there's 3 different numbers: Texas residents, non-residents, and internationals. Internationals, yours is almost 30,000 is where you start. But because we give a scholarship and we give the non-resident waiver, Just using an average low end 3,000 award, we've got that cost down to 14,000, but that's still tuition and fees for the year. You then have cost of living on top of that. So this is where people are either using some of their savings or they've had an extra stream of income to help pay for that cost of living. Now, this is what Texas A&M puts out. I can't change this. Yes, some people do live on less than that, especially if they're sharing an apartment or some kind of a room arrangement. So that is the reality of the costs, but we do try to get that down. Now, if someone were to earn instead of a 3,000 award, a $15,000 award, that just went down almost completely, where almost all of your tuition, or it is all your tuition and fees paid for, and you're only left with a little bit. Um, Mainly international students have a little bit higher cost because of the $4,000 for the um, health insurance that are required. All right, so I'm going to have another webinar that's going to go into more detail about funding. That'll be in November, so look for that. But let's get back to professional development. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. I'm not going to read all of this, but we do have a leadership program where we're doing assessments and workshops. There's a number of different ones that are offered. It's by elective. You don't have to attend them. If it interests you and you think you can benefit, then please do it. There are also opportunities to complete some of the program workshops and get involved on campus, and you can earn a Dean's Leadership Certificate for doing that, which can then be a credential for your resume. We do have a number of staff that are working through a writing program here that meet one-on-one with student. They're fantastic. They can help you go through any problem areas in your writing or address any issues a faculty member is putting on your papers. They're going to work with the capstone projects and make sure that they are set up for success as well. So that's a great resource. Speakers, we've got guest faculty, alumni, and speakers coming out. There's probably 2 to 3 a week that you can attend if that's of interest to you. Texas A&M has a library system that is extensive, second to none. This is a digital library collection with interlibrary loans, document delivery. A lot of our faculty don't even require books for our classes because they are setting it up through the loan system through the library. And so these e-documents you can get a hold of, which is saving you money. Now, many times people come to our program and ask about travel opportunities. Are there any exchanges, study abroad? We do have some study abroad trips or field seminars that are hosted. For instance, one of our nonprofit professors will be spending the summer doing something in Spain. So that is a course that people can sign up for. They pay an additional cost and they get to spend several weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, I believe, in Spain doing this study abroad trip. So that is an opportunity that exists when they come up and when faculty are leading them. There's also semester exchanges that some students can do with Education Abroad office here at Texas A&M. You just don't see that nearly as much at the grad level because they then fall behind and may not graduate with their cohort. But it does exist. Some do it, especially if they've already done for instance, a certificate and they're ahead of the game. They're not falling behind. And then there is also the capstone travel for field research. We also have a number of research centers and institutes. So there's 6 of them that exist with us. The MPSA related ones are listed here as the Institute for Science, Technology, and Public Policy, the Mosbacher Institute, the Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy. They're doing research, they're covering hot button topics, they're bringing in guest speakers, all kinds of opportunities that students who are interested in those fields can work with those professors directly, find out if there's opportunities to even be hired as student workers on certain projects they might be working on. There's also what are called programs, which are a little bit lower level than the centers and institutes. And we have a city and county governance program that's tied in with our Master of Public Service. As far as career services, there are 3 staff working with our students for career advising, internship notification, letting you know what's available. You guys are following up with them. They also provide that funding opportunity I talked about earlier. Our employment averages are usually around the mid 90s. I'm going to give some of the lower amount too, just because not everyone is being able to find those jobs within 6 months. But everyone has resources and has those opportunities to find a career area that is of interest to them. And then again, post-grad career support. So if you decide 10 years down the road you want to switch careers, you can reach out to our office and we can put you in touch with alumni and be able to talk about what does that look like for a transition? Are there opportunities for jobs, somebody hiring in that area? They will work with you for that. So I put the career sectors and what those look like for the past 3 years. You can see that state and local government is really big in our program. Master of Public Service, definitely employing here in Texas and within our communities, largely because that city and county governance, people are looking at things like city managers. Nonprofits is usually right in that 20 to 25% range. Federal typically is about the same. 2023 wasn't as strong. Some of them are looking at government contractors or private, or are looking on to continue into a PhD or JD program. Now, here are some of those employers. So if you're curious, what did this look like? I've just thrown a couple of these in from the past 2 to 3 years. So we've got a lot that are going into city governments in North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oregon, lots in Texas. You've got Illinois Power Agency. You've got someone who's doing emergency management. Someone else is looking at public utilities, public safety, education, health and human services, parks and wildlife. It really runs all kinds of areas. In the federal government, here's where some of our international students may be returning back to their countries. There was both a Bangladesh and an Indonesian student that went back for the Ministry of Finances. The Embassy of Mexico, someone went back. South Korean Ministry of Trade. And then you've got departments of agriculture, justice, protection, EPA, for instance, Government Accountability Office. Nonprofits, all kinds of areas. I'm not going to read these off, but anywhere from within local communities to maybe the state level to the national level, and some are even international level. Samaritan's Purse, for instance, is working with more of the religious side of it, but going into other countries and providing work. So private industry, Baker Tilly US, Rios Partners, TC Energy, not as many students go into this area, but it does exist. Now, as far as getting involved, our students have a number of different avenues for getting committed and meeting with their fellow students to either do service around the community, getting involved in their student government, being part of one of the many committees that might be working with tailgating. Someone else might be working with the social and potlucks that we do. There's all kinds of ways to get involved. The Master of Public Service, International City and County Management Association is a big one for them, as is the Association of Fundraising Professionals. Now, the Ready Room is more of our international affairs for the intelligence. The Ambassadors Council, they are consisting of both departments. So these are students that are hosting some of our guest speakers, and we'll make sure they're getting into their speaker engagements, maybe having a lunch or dinner with them. We also have intramurals in athletics. So that you can go blow off steam and have some fun and go play flag football or soccer or whatever floats your boat there. And there's 1,000+ Texas A&M organizations if you're interested in that. Now, before I wind up on this and we'll start taking some questions, I did want to just mention we do have what is called an online Executive Master of Public Service. This is a degree that some students who have a lot more professional experience are qualified for, because you have to have 5 years of full-time public service experience, 3 years at mid-management to even be considered. Their tracks are just a little bit different than the ones for our program. But they do bring students in both the fall, spring, and summer. You do work a capstone project. All the courses are online, except that you do have to be in attendance here on our campus, either here or in DC, for a 1-week residency 2 different times. So we do want to meet you. We want to have you in campus. So it doesn't work as well for international students, but it is an option for those that have some higher level experiences. And again, you can transfer courses from one of our certificates into that online EMPSA. Okay, there's a lot of information. I am going to read off really quick about our contact information. So if you need any information about this degree, you're going to reach out to Bush School Admissions at tamu.edu or call the phone number there. That's 979-862-3476. Ashley and I both work those and are happy to answer questions. If you need the online EMPSA or any one of the certificates, you'll work with the Office of Extended Education. That's Bushkill Online at tamu.edu. The DC office is not related to the Master of Public Service yet. They're looking at maybe starting something in Homeland Security first, but they're more geared towards our international affairs and security. But that is an option. And then we do have some upcoming events coming up with the international affairs degree I'm going to cover on Thursday. We'll do student life on Wednesday, October the 1st. Ashley is going to cover a webinar on admissions October the 7th, and there's several others that are listed here. And additionally, if you've got any drop-in sessions, we're going to hold them on Wednesdays. They're all listed on the website. You just drop in during that hour. Somebody will be there, either a staff or a student, to cover it. They're either offered from 11:30 to 12:30 or 5:30 to 6:30. So a lot of information on our recruitment events. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you at future of these, but I'm going to stop the recording and then I'll take some questions. Thank you guys.